Top of the morning, everyone.
No matter where in the world you are, this is
Real Speaks.
Welcome back, everybody, to
Hello.
Our third show.
Number 3.
Yeah, this is great. You know, we've got some great feedback, and people are starting to catch on, and we're actually, T and I are just so happy. We're so happy with the responses.
Really appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, and, you know, the views are going up slowly on YouTube, and we're just really happy to be able to do this show, and we've got quite another week.
Yes, we do.
For you here. There's lots of really bizarre stories in the news.
Yeah.
Some end times reports.
Yes, there is. And
we're going to check in with the New Age movement towards the end. You know, there's some Pedogate and Vatican sex scandals we'll talk about. And then we'll also have a little story about the return of the Raphaim.
Yes, and the technology that's being used to bring back the things as they were during Genesis.
Absolutely. So, but we're going to start off with Yellowstone. All right. So this article caught my attention and a lot of other people's attention from Zero Hedge, National Geographic's Guide to the Yellowstone supervolcano. Amidst a growing swarm of over 1,000 earthquakes.
Lots of tremors.
And Montana's largest quake ever, scientists are growing increasingly concerned that the so-called supervolcano at the heart of Yellowstone National Park could be building towards a Category 7 eruption.
Yeah.
So what is a supervolcano, and what does this mean? What does its explosion mean for life on Earth? Nat Geo explains. And there's a video here. We're actually going to play some segments of the video and give some of our comments, right? So, well, let me just tell you personally. So my parents... when this news came out, my parents were actually driving cross country.
And where were they driving cross country?
Because they were going to a energy conference, and they were bringing one of our inventions to this conference. If you want to know about us and what we do, we have inventions, and we work with energy and alternative energy devices. But they were driving the device across the country, which was risky enough, and then they got stuck in that earthquake in Montana. It was a 5.8 earthquake, and it was the largest earthquake that they've had in Montana. It says here, largest quake ever. So it was really bad. They almost got into a car accident as well. It was, you know, prayer was, there was actually well over 100 people praying for them. Because I put something out on Facebook, say, please pray for my parents, because what they're doing is they're on a really important trip. So obviously I was worried.
Yeah.
So then this stuff starts circulating around the web about, you know, Yellowstone is gonna blow, right? So
well, I have something to say about Yellowstone is one of these sites that, if you look at some of the major channels on television, it has been discussed over the past decade or so as being a point of major natural disaster. And so I've always kind of been puzzled about why that is. So it's like this, for Yellowstone, this perpetual, the idea is that there is a growing concern and that this thing will blow.
Yeah.
Now, whether it happens in this generation or not, there are a lot of programs out there now about if Yellowstone goes, and you know, it'll be a supervolcano and it'll take out.
It's not a question of if. It's a question of when.
Of when.
Right? So,
yeah.
So okay, so you guys, you had to see me, right? I was like worried about my parents, and so I see this article, and I see other stuff floating around on Facebook, which I will be sharing with you. And I said, I remember watching this National Geographic documentary. Yeah. So I started watching it, and we're actually going to play some segments of it.
Okay.
And, you know, and then we'll pause it so we can comment. But this is basically talking about Yellowstone in a very over-the-top, dramatic, Nat Geo kind of way.
Yellowstone, America's first national park, and home to one of the world's largest supervolcanoes. Beneath the scenic geysers and waterfalls, an eruption 1,000 times larger than any in human history awaits. It's happened before. Less than 1 million years ago, it devastated more than half the continent, and it could happen again.
Okay, so less than 1 million years ago, it devastated half the continent. Now, At some point, Savon and I are going to do a Real Speak special report about the arbitrary dates and numbers that these like pseudoscience that pretend to be real science shows are coming up with, because there's a lot of faults in carbon dating. And so whenever I hear somebody say that it's 985 million years old, I'm like, really? Were you there? How do you know? Right? Because the carbon dating that they're using to come up with that number is just crazy.
Yeah, the special report will talk about the method of carbon dating, the person who used it as a way of telling the age of artifacts in history, and his own doubts on it being a reliable method, although that was redacted from the history books. But
yeah, so that's going to be like a whole separate video about these crazy dates that, you know, they put them out there as fact, but they're not actually proven. In many cases, they have been completely debunked, and they're just making up numbers. So whenever I see any kind of a show and I start seeing these like crazy made up numbers, that's where you lose me. You know? And
it's also tough when we've all been raised in the school system, and we're taught from an early age that to get used to the concept of hundreds of millions and billions of years. Hundreds of millions and billions of years.
And the other thing that as a side note, what that does in the mind and the heart of an individual is it makes them not believe something. It's like, oh, well, 850 million years ago. So that means, it
doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. It's never going to happen. It allows somebody to just, not be on guard about
to distance
events.
yourself from the event.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, what am I, just a speck in 108 million years or whatever. So you can see what we're talking about.
There will definitely be additional eruptions in this area.
And not just one, but a series of monstrous eruptions. 1,000,000 times more powerful than an atomic bomb.
1,000,000 times more
It's
powerful.
absolutely devastating. Everything would be killed.
Destroying thousands of square miles of land and countless lives across the Northwest.
It'll just be over. It'll be toast. It'll be finished.
We go beneath the earth to probe the volcano, reveal for the first time the source of its power, to discover what will happen when the sleeping giant of Yellowstone awakens and becomes a mega disaster.
What does it have to do with the...
Yeah, they're in France, but, Yellowstone. Mega disaster. And we go on from there. But you know what? Okay, I can do the drama. Like, in a world where everything is over dramatic. Yeah. I can do that. I can get with that.
But the key here is that we've been seeing these shows at least for the past 15 years or so.
A constantly moving cauldron of molten rock the size of Mount Everest. Over countless millions of years, it fills with lava to the breaking point.
Yes. Countless millions of years. Why are they countless?
Because
you can't count them.
Not the lava flows, anyway.
Like a bomb with a hidden timer, it finally explodes.
We don't know how long it's going to just sit there before it decides to go off.
If sometime in the future it were to erupt, as it has before, the Yellowstone volcano would overwhelm everything within 100 miles and disrupt lives across the globe for years. The first sign of trouble will be increasing seismic activity. The ground would rise as pressure from the molten rock begins to grow.
There would be a lot of ground deformation, and then if it was moving up slowly enough, we would actually start seeing large changes in the geyser basins.
So far, all these things, but I'm not like discrediting the whole thing. It's like there is a supervolcano underneath Yellowstone, and there can be a pretty bad eruption, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and these are all the things that would happen. There's reasons why there's earthquakes and things can happen there. It's, the over dramatization, I can handle it. And I'm okay. I'm okay with this, even up to this point. I'll just dismiss the millions of years because that just makes me laugh. But I'm okay with it up until this point. But we're going to get to a point where they totally lose me, and I couldn't even finish watching it. So
how do we know it will happen? Because it's happened before. The evidence is etched into the geologic record of past supervolcanoes.
See, everything up until now was like, okay, that makes sense. right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not knocking them completely, right? But now, what we're about to witness is them just making everything up. Okay? This is what science has become.
And this is only the last of 3 monstrous calderas formed over the past 2 million years.
The volcanic history of Yellowstone is really marked by these 3 giant cataclysmic eruptions of the scale that we haven't seen in, history of man, really.
The first eruption vented somewhere around 600 cubic miles of material. And if you took all of that and you spread it out over the state of Texas, you'd have about 12 feet thick of deposits.
The second eruption was hundreds of times larger than Mount St. Helens, and it's the smallest of the Yellowstone supereruptions. The most recent one, known as the Lava Creek eruption, occurred 640,000 years ago.
This is where they lost me.
Okay.
Right? 640,000 years ago.
To your monkey,
And now we
monkey
have
men.
the plastic monkey gods men. Now we have to throw in the evolution. And this is where they totally lost me.
At the time, early man had yet to arrive on the scene. Exotic prehistoric animals roamed the North American continent. 5 miles beneath the earth, however, a magmatic cauldron 3 times the size of New York City was coming to a boil.
All right, so we're going to stop that there. Did you like the monkey men?
Sometimes I shed a tear when I see the monkey men.
Sorry, but, we're still looking into it, but we don't believe that we all came from a rock and then turned into a monkey, because there is no missing links skeletons found anywhere. And once again, that's going to be a separate Real Speaks special report. But I'm trying to look, so here I am, right? And I'm trying to look into, I want to know about Yellowstone. I want to see, what kind of a volcano is it? What kind of area does it cover?
Yeah.
If it blows up, or when it blows up, what area of the country would be affected, and how would that change the environment? Because we have an explosion like that, the clouds,
Exactly.
the dust clouds, the ash clouds, because I actually visited Pompeii, and went to that site there where you saw, the entire buried city of Pompeii,
Right.
Because Mount Vesuvius exploded and buried
That's
that
right.
whole civilization in ash. So,
Yeah. Well, okay, so, right, we're not necessarily dismissing anything dealing with the tremors. Obviously, there are lots of tremors going on, a
Yep.
lot of activity happening now. But in our recent past, when we look at things like Mount St. Helens, especially the documentary on Mount St. Helens, these events happened really quickly. I mean, it was just, but there were indicators that an eruption was going to occur. And, are we seeing that now? It's possible. And it's just, there's a lot going on with that as a geographical site. There's a lot of activity going on there. But on the other end of that, it just seems that on the other side of that, there's the media that does not put a geological disaster, does not make waste of it, and will use it as an opportunity to push an agenda dealing with the evolution and all these other things. So
yeah, and by the way, we were told about this thousands of years ago. It says in Luke 21, there will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. So we're just trying to prepare everybody for what's happening, what's coming, and just covering it as it comes out. However, on the tail end of the real earthquake news around Yellowstone, we get this article circulating around Facebook, and I'm going to be honest, I actually fell for it. Okay? I fell for it. And this is what the article said. It was coming from something called Casper Planet, and this is the actual post right here. It says, breaking. Yellowstone lava geyser. For the first time in recorded human history, lava has shot out of one of the geysers in Yellowstone National Park. This following directly after a string of earthquakes in Montana and very rural Wyoming. Geologists, NASA, and an oil rig drilling crew are already on scene to document this never-recorded event and try to find the cause. We will continue to update you with more information as it surfaces.
Okay, so this is an example of what I said earlier about with any natural event, especially one that looks like it might be forming into something, it's not being wasted. It's used as an opportunity to put out this misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, there's all these different paths being created around a certain event, and we're looking for the one that has the most truth to it.
Here's the problem. So this is what the article says here. It says, no, Yellowstone is not spewing lava, despite what Facebook tells you.
Right.
A recent Facebook post about lava shooting out of a geyser in Yellowstone National Park has gone viral. Sorry, folks, this didn't happen. This Facebook update posted by Castor Planet has a lot of people talking about lava spewing at Yellowstone National Park. The post has gotten over 57,000 shares and will probably have more by the time you read this.
How did it get so many shares?
We're gonna go into that. We're still going. Okay, but anyway, let me continue reading. For those who don't know, Casper Planet is a satirical Facebook page that posts exaggerated and spoof-type content. Hats off to Casper Planet for this viral hit. It is actually pretty impressive to see the kind of interaction from a small page like this. Although many recognize and see the fun in this, a quick scroll through the comment section proves that many believe this is true. This is not true. Okay, so here's the thing. This is a satirical Facebook page that posts exaggerated content. They think it's funny.
Yeah.
And it had 57,000 shares.
Right.
And a whole bunch of people started like clicking on it and panicking, and I was one of them because my parents were there, and I was like, "Oh no," it's like. So anyway, here's the thing. We're living in a time where we've got unbelievable censorship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We said in our last week's show, Facebook has just hired an additional 4,500 people, employees, to add to their staff of 3,000 people, and their entire job is to sit there and look through posts to monitor what people can post and what people can share.
The thought police.
The thought police. So if they find anything that they don't think is agreeable, they can label it as hate speech. They also came out and said, we don't want fake news. Right? We know this too. How in the world did this post get 57,000 shares when it's obviously fake news? So apparently on Facebook, you can't voice your opinion about something, especially if it's talking about the LGBT agenda or if it's Christian. That gets removed as hate speech. However, on Facebook, it's okay if you yell lava in a crowded theater.
You can yell it in a crowded theater. Also, this, like the documentary before, it does play into a threat matrix,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not just talking about the geographical or geological site. You have to put a story around it of imminent doom and disaster. I'm not saying it could happen,
Mm-hmm.
but that, again, it's almost trying to preempt, get people. Well, I mean, if you can easily look at that and think that it's a real situation. You don't know it's a prank.
Yeah, no.
So
most people
it's injected disinformation into a real event. I
Right.
mean, there are thousands of tremors going on there.
Yep.
And people are feeling it. So, yeah.
Well, just to help everybody keep our sanity, okay, this is what we're going to see. And there's like a few points in this show where we're actually going to pull this out again. This whole Facebook, Google, and YouTube are all, in bed together. And the whole point is to skew the data information. And they report fake news as real.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say that real news is fake. Okay, everything is an opposite world.
Right.
It's all switched around. So just to help us understand what's happening, I'm just going to read a couple verses here because once again, we've been told about this. It says in Isaiah 5:21, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who substitute darkness for light and light for darkness." who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Everything is flipped around. So we're here, folks. We're here.
Yes, yeah.
I just want to read one more really relevant verse around that as well. This comes from 2 Thessalonians. The coming of the lawless one will be accompanied by the working of Satan, with every kind of power, sign, and false wonder, and with every wicked deception directed against those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth that would have saved them. For this reason, God will send them a powerful delusion, so that they will believe the lie, in order that judgment will come upon all those who have disbelieved the truth and delighted in wickedness. What does that mean to you when you see what's happening with these fake stories?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of disinformation around real events, for one. So there's mass confusion on a lot of levels, and all of us are extremely busy just trying to keep our head above water. So there isn't enough time to get all the information. I guess we're just going to have to just pick and choose the stories that we want to engage in, and decide if it's worth taking the time to find out where the truth is.
Yeah.
And it's there somewhere. But probably the best thing in a situation like that is to let time resolve a lot of these matters, because we just don't have it, you know.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things I see online that are like, well, I really don't have the time to engage in it. And then some time passes and I revisit it, and only to find out a lot of these stories were false, didn't even exist.
I think most people aren't believing most of what they read. I mean, mainstream media, it's like nobody believes mainstream. Like, I think the polls are awful on that one, right? But now we even have the alternative media on the internet, and what do you believe there?
Right.
Right. So, and that's why, Tavon and I, we're just trying to like walk you guys through some of the events and let you guys decide. Just we'll give you the links and say this is the stuff that's happening. And, sometimes you have what we call Holy Spirit discernment, where you kind of get like a little check in your spirit and you're like, oh, I recognize that story to be true. Right. I recognize the energy around that story. Or you get the opposite, where it's like, I recognize that story is a lie. I can tell it's a lie, right? So we're just trying to put these out there to tell you guys what's going on. Okay, moving on to our next segment, we're going to be talking about Pedogate updates and the Vatican sex scandals, because those things have been coming out. And we'll start with some Pedogate things. Something huge happened in the news.
Well, something's happening globally right now.
Globally right now. I mean, this was really big. So this is just one of many headlines about the same story from Russia today. 90,000 strong child porn ring busted on the dark web. Police in Frankfurt swooped on suspecting pedophiles after busting a massive child pornography website on the dark web. The site had almost 90,000 users who swapped graphic images of children and arranged meetings to abuse them. The forum, known as Elysium, had existed on the Internet's dark side since the end of 2016. Frankfurt public prosecutors and Germany's BKA federal police said they arrested several people connected to the forum, including the site's suspected operator, a 39-year-old man living in Frankfurt. The unidentified man was arrested on June 12th when police raided his apartment, seizing the server used to host the site. There's going to be a link to this, but I want to show you another story because it actually gives a little more information. Okay, this is another angle of the story because it talks about that at this particular bust of 90,000 people on the dark web doing this stuff.
It's a huge number.
That's a lot of people. High-level politicians were arrested in this pedophile sting. This is a global pedophile network on the dark web which has been shut down, resulting in thousands arrested, including high-level politicians, entertainers, white-collar professionals, and high-ranking clergy members, according to several sources. German prosecutors said Thursday, July 6th, that they had shut down a major platform used by elite pedophiles for organizing the sexual abuse of children, which led to the arrest of its suspected ringleader and senior members of the pedophile community in Germany and abroad. So,
amazing. It's simply amazing.
And again, the links will be there so you can take a look at them. But this is absolutely huge news.
Yeah.
And
the roster of people that they caught in this sting. Again, it's like the past few weeks, like in the States. I mean, these are business people. These again are members of the clergy for the Vatican.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like the number 3 in Vatican, and that was in charge of finance, was caught in a recent. It's been arrested recently.
Let's not forget let's put this up against some scripture about what Jesus said in Matthew 18. But if anyone causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Yeah. The people are enraged at what's going on. I can't believe the numbers that I'm seeing, the arrests that I'm seeing. And part of me doesn't even want to look. I don't want to know because it's so ugly. But I think that the awareness is our number one weapon to stop this, because if people know that it's happening, the only way they can get away with it is because they've tricked everybody into thinking that it's not real.
I think also it's an example of what happens when these crimes are allowed to go on multi-generationally.
Mm-hmm.
And again, all of these people arrested are people in really influential positions who basically thought they're invincible. Something clearly has changed politically all over the planet recently, where people you wouldn't ever think would get arrested because, where they are in the social ladder are now being arrested and put in public view.
Yeah.
As being seen as pedophiles. So, this is a good thing. The things are changing. Things are changing for the better in that respect. At least it's coming to the surface so that these past crimes are being brought to bear. People having to face it. So.
All right, moving on to. We have to. We're telling you guys what's happening. So last month, Vatican police raided an apartment that's owned by one of Pope Francis's key advisors, Cardinal Cocopel Mario. They walked into this apartment and they stumbled upon an evil, drug-fueled gay orgy of priests.
And that was what the article described the scene.
This happened. They walked in and they found this. So here's one article. This was all over the place, but it says here the Pope reportedly did not handle the news well.
I can't be. Wonder why.
Anyway, so we'll let you read that on your own, but that happened. Okay?
Right.
That happened. There's been all kinds of problems, and right after this happened, there was another story in the news.
Yeah, it's like back to back.
Yeah, stuff has been coming out about the Vatican for quite some time, and it's getting worse and worse. So we're actually going to also leave you a link here. I want to bring this video to your attention. It's called What They're Not Telling You About the Vatican Sex Raids, and it's an excellent YouTube video that has been put together by AMTV, and he actually does a great job giving you a walkthrough of the entire thing, and all these different stories. This is Chad Buscam from AMTV, so check that out.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Shortly after they walked in on the gay priest orgy.
If that wasn't enough.
In Australia, Victoria Police charged Cardinal George Pell with historical sexual assault offenses. So he has stepped down from his duties as cardinal in order to go fight this in Australia. So he's going to go try to fight for his innocence, but that happened as well. So that's going on with the Vatican. Some really heavy stories are coming out. And, that's, again, another special report that we want to put together is exposing a lot of these things around the Vatican with our own walkthrough on it for people's education. So you guys can follow along and see what's really going on. And again, this is nothing against Catholics, because there's a lot of people that follow the Catholic faith. This is about what's going on at the heads of these religions that is...
As an institution.
Yeah, as a power institution, and there's a lot of satanic roots behind it.
Look, the thing is that in these institutions, in government and in finance and in religious, in buildings with people holding a position, wearing a costume, and have done so for long periods of time, they use their power to manipulate and to corrupt. And a lot of them are into pedophilia and are Satanists. And so when we see these crimes being uncovered, they always tend to be massive, big, with witnesses in the dozens, sometimes hundreds coming saying this person abused me when I was a child. So this is a massive thing that's happening around the world where these pedophile networks are being uncovered, and these clergy and these priests and these people in finance are being arrested and held to account and being made public. These people need to come out from the dark like the cockroaches they are and be made an example of for being pedophile scum.
The thing too is that just for the edification of people that are listening, something that I feel when I see these stories, it's like, well, why are they doing this? Why is this happening? And I feel through some of the research that we've done and through the Holy Spirit just guiding my heart and my mind around certain things, I have an understanding of why they're doing these horrible things to children. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what the special report, I want that to be about, so that people can, as sick as it is, I want people to understand what these people believe and why they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
Because it's their Luciferian religion. It's the elite Luciferian religion, and the stuff that they're doing to children is horrific beyond compare. But it's been done before, and there's stories that tell us where the origins of this comes from.
Absolutely.
It comes from the fallen angels. It's what was happening in the days of Noah.
Right.
And it's the reason why God flooded the earth. So We're going to go into that in a special report, but just know that these things...
It's not new.
It's not new.
No.
And there's a mentality behind it, as bad as it is, that can help bring some clarity to people that are just like, I don't even understand why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, we're gonna talk about quickly. Do you know what YouTube is letting your kids watch? I found this video, and I didn't even know about this, but I found this video, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna play the video because it has some really strong imagery of a collection of all these different YouTube channels that are putting out these videos. They have actors in them that are dressed up in Disney costumes. They have they're showing scenes of like violence and gore and all these different things. And I'll of course leave a link to the video so you can watch it. It's done by Really Graceful, which is a great YouTube channel that I love to follow.
Yeah.
But while we're watching the video, Tavon and I are going to mute the audio, and we're going to comment over it ourselves with what we're seeing. And so I just want to say, if your kids are around, don't let them see this. This isn't really a kid-friendly show.
It's irony because this show is supposed to be geared towards children who are allowed to look at children's education on YouTube through like their iPad or smart screen.
I mean, okay, so you're a parent and you have a small child, a toddler, and you give them an iPad or something, and you show them a YouTube video, and you're like, okay, while mommy drives on this long car trip, I just want you to, look at
whatever you want on
YouTube
on the 4G network.
And then you as the parent, you glance over and you see that your kid has like, some cartoon on the YouTube screen, and you see a picture of Mickey Mouse, and you're like, oh, okay, they're watching Mickey Mouse, they're fine, everything's fine. Mm-hmm. But these are cartoons that are being put out, animations and actors in Disney costumes that are being put out that look like they're for children. But if you're not paying attention as a parent, well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and run these clips so you can see for yourself what YouTube is putting in front of your kids. All right.
There you go.
So we have these actors. They're dressed up. Look, we have, what's that, the princess from Frozen chopping off her fingers with blood dripping down the screen. We have babies holding guns, shooting at the genie in Aladdin, people's heads getting cut off. Well, that's Elmo. Okay, this is a baby taking a bath in Coca-Cola. That's not that bad. It's kind of disturbing. Okay, now we're getting into the sick stuff. Okay,
Right.
We got images of
here we
people.
go, the pizza thing. There we
The
go.
Pizzagate. We have images of people tying up children. Look at this channel. Look at these thumbnails on this channel. They're very kid-centric. So yeah, if your kid's just sitting there, you know, with their iPad trying to learn, this is the stuff that they're showing kids. This has MK Ultra mind conditioning, getting people ready for, you know, accepting the crazy. It's just so awful. It's so awful.
Well, I think what's happened here is that this is what some parents seem to be when they give the kids technology. This is the kind of stuff that's just there. It just flows right into the eye gates.
Mm-hmm.
If the parents aren't being
Look at
careful.
this.
Here we go.
Look at
Again,
this.
this
This
is part of
person
that
with
same YouTube channel.
Wearing all black.
Taking a kid. It's really strange
You know,
stuff.
this is like, look, a head in an oven. Somebody's head in an oven.
It's not education, folks.
Yeah, chopping off fingers. Alright, so now we've got Mickey Mouse defecating in a pool with other Mickey Mouse characters.
There's a lot of videos on this channel, so these kind of cartoons with the Mickey Mouse is all over it, and Disney has not flagged this.
Yeah, what's that? What's that all about?
I mean, copyright restriction all over. Well, not on this channel.
Look at this. We have a doll with a man's head on it, and they're pretending to change its
look
diaper
at the
with,
views.
chocolate stuff.
Look at the views.
34 million
How's
views.
that even possible? How's that even possible on YouTube?
If it's rigged. Now this is really disturbing.
It's looped over again.
Kidnapping children, dragging kids away.
So this is the pedophile type.
Tying them up in chairs,
and laughing
wearing
at the kid.
princess costumes.
Yes, I mean, for me, I'm looking at a pedophile operation. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. Sick pedos out there. Alright, so now we've got like these doctors. Look at all these kids. And there's sexual stuff, of course. Oh, here's a couple of princesses getting drunk. Okay? And princesses with guns, shooting people. Again, children tied up.
Right. It goes on and on.
Yeah. It's really, really disturbing stuff, and they're all dressed up as superheroes, and they're all shooting each other. So we've got violence, and you know what? That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. We'll stop it there, and because I can't even take it anymore. So make sure you see what your kids are looking at, but here's the thing, okay? YouTube, and we have to go into a little bit of this, right?
Yeah.
So we've been reporting on this, and it's been happening a lot. YouTube is censoring a lot of people's channels, okay? We have a lot of them are Christian channels too, right? So if you're a Christian channel, you are targeted by YouTube, and you'll get flagged for hate speech. You'll get your channel demonetized.
Right.
You'll be taken down. I mean, they are censoring like crazy, and they're taking these channels out. But they let channels like that get 34 million views.
Exactly.
Okay, so obviously there's an extremely skewed perception there. And by the way, if you're listening to this show on YouTube, we want you to know that we have backup plans. We have contingency plan A, B, C, and D. We have our YouTube, we have a website, we have a podcast, and we have Vimeo. We have all different things. So if for any reason any of these videos get blocked on copyright stuff or whatever.
Community standards excuse.
Yeah, we definitely encourage you to please just go to our website and just sign up to the mailing list, and that way every time a new show comes out, you'll get an email about it so that you can go watch it there, wherever it is. And if something gets pulled on YouTube, it'll be on Vimeo, and there you go. And they're not going to pull it from Vimeo because it's a completely different set of, they don't censor that much. So, anyway, moving on to our next topic. All right, so we're going to just revisit. Every now and then I like to keep tabs on what's going on in the New Age community.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is because I came from there. Okay, so if you haven't listened to my testimony yet, it's out there on our channel right now. I was a witch for 13 years. And after that, I got really heavy into the New Age movement. And I was actually going around to a lot of these New Age conferences, and I was one of the keynote speakers at these New Age conferences. I know a lot of these people that are in these circles. And for me, what happened, my own testimony, is that being in those circles and dealing with the stuff that happened in there, it ruined my life. Okay? It was demonic. I had a lot of spiritual attacks, and I got out of it because Jesus came to me and visited me and showed me the deception that I was under and saved me from that world of hell. So that's a quick synopsis of my own personal testimony. Mm-hmm. You can go listen to the whole thing if you want, but I feel that I have a heart now for people that are still in this movement. And I want to try to help bring some of them out, but I'm also kind of looking at what happens, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a bit of a New Age deception. Where are they now?
Yeah.
So the people that we're about to tell you about, because this story just came out, or it came to my attention anyway this past week, I actually knew these people personally. Okay, so normally I wouldn't want to use anybody's name.
Yeah.
And bring out names and just talk about behaviors rather than trying to expose an individual. But in this case, I have to talk about names because it's been outed in the news and it's actually a police case right now. This is the article that came out. The creator of Spirit Science, Jordan D., admits to rape, and Blake Dyer, member of Teal Swan's team, blames the survivor. So we won't go into too many of the details of the case, but what you need to know is that this guy is one of the co-founders of a very popular New Age website and channel called Spirit Science. And he had another founder as well who broke away, but he is the co-founder, and he was working with Teal Swan, who is this huge guru-esque spiritual leader who has a huge following as well. And in this story, this man raped one of their followers, and the girl came out and she blogged about it, but she didn't tell anybody about it for years because he's a very, very high-profile person. And they get millions of views.
Yes, they did.
They have tons of traffic. And there's lots of money that goes into these New Age websites. We talked in our first show about Stephen Barnkars, right, at the very end of our first show. Stephen Barnkars is the other co-founder of Spirit Science. And he left the New Age movement. He renounced the New Age movement, and he became a born-again Christian and left this whole world behind him. This is his former friend and partner for this that stayed in it. So this is what's happening with Spirit Science.
Yeah.
And we'll go into both in just a second, but I wanted to say that Stephen Barnkars outed publicly that he was making $40,000 a month alone in ad revenue just by writing New Age articles. So this Spirit Science website is making tons of money from the ad revenue, and also the ad revenue from all the New Age videos that are out there. And these videos have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, when it comes to Spirit Science, millions.
Yes.
Millions and millions of views. And all of those views get ad revenue.
Yeah, that's right.
So what happened here is that the girl came out. She's gone to the police, and she actually has a confession. She has several different Facebook conversations where she was speaking to him after the event occurred, and she got him to confess that he had raped her because she didn't know how to handle it. She was 21. Her story right here, this is her blog called The Ghost. This is a story called Read Me, I Was Raped. He wouldn't take no for an answer. I was raped in 2012. I was 21. And she tells the full story about what she's gone to the police. They've done this big investigation. So it's very legitimate. And here's a picture of her with Teal Swan. Now, the reason why Teal Swan gets linked into this is because Teal Swan linked up with this guy from Spirit Science, Jordan from Spirit Science, and once that happened, Teal Swan's views started going through the roof.
Okay.
Okay, and that's actually listed in the other article as well.
Right.
And so when this girl, this rape victim, tried to tell Teal Swan, I was raped, Teal Swan said, and she's like, why are you doing business with my rapist? And Teal Swan said, it's just business, and I don't believe that you were raped. And then Teal Swan's husband publicly discredited, or tried to discredit the rape victim by saying it was your fault you were raped. Okay, so that's what this article is basically saying. And I just wanted to, the only reason we're bringing this up and we're talking about this is because this is the kind of stuff that happens in these New Age circles.
Yeah.
Okay? The interesting thing that article also talks about is because when she was asking him, you know, why did you rape me? Why did you do what you did? Why did you, like, not stop when I said stop? And he actually said, because I was possessed. And she said, possessed by what? And he was talking about how it was almost as if he was on cocaine.
Yeah.
He said lust, greed, and power was possessing me, and it was like I was on cocaine without ever actually having taken any of it. Now let me explain. I've been to these conferences. I've spoken at these conferences. I met up with Teal Swan at one of these conferences. I know a lot of these people, and I've actually written a book about some of my experiences, because what happens is that there's all kinds of New Agey demon summoning that goes on. Yeah. And these people open themselves up, not like unknowingly, they don't understand. They think that they're just meditating, but they're opening themselves up to allow these other spirits and entities to enter into their bodies and make them do things that they would never do. And I hate to say it, but sex is always the main thing on the agenda, right? These conferences are known for sexual predators who go to the conferences to pick up people. There's all kinds of hotel room swapping that happens during the conferences, and it's just not a very good place to be. Yeah. So, with that said, I just wanted to show you a little bit more. Real quick, just a minute, if you don't know what spirit science is, okay, the rapists that came from spirit science. This is what spirit science is. This is one of their many videos. It has over 1 million views, and it's called Spirit Science and Channeling. So this is the kind of stuff that these people are putting out there.
2 primary ways of communicating with beings of higher consciousness. One is through astral projection, where you leave your physical body and communicate to them in person. As much as I'd love to break into astral travel right now, we have to save that for later. The other method involves having a being come to Earth and communicate through a trained person, and this is called channeling. Channeling is a natural form of communication between humans and beings of higher consciousness, included but not limited to angelic beings, spirits of nature, non-physical entities, or even animals and pets. In a sense, it's basically when a human will turn him or herself into kind of like a phone for beings of higher consciousness and people to communicate.
Kind of like.
A channeler can choose who or what they want to channel. As long as the other party has an interest in communicating, the link is made and the channeling can begin. Now don't worry, there's no possession or anything harmful taking place here.
I beg to defer.
Likewise.
Don't worry, there's no possession taking place here.
Not at all.
The words of the spirit science founder is, I was possessed.
I was possessed.
So there's that. Let me give you a quick view of Teal Swan so you know what she's all about. Here's one of Teal Swan's videos called How to Sell Your Soul to the Devil or Not.
Hello everyone. So this week I decided, for the sake of all of you spiritual junkies out there, I'm going to throw you off the deep end a little bit into some serious information. We live in a universe of polarity. Polarity is necessary for the sake of expansion. We know white by knowing black. We know freedom by knowing imprisonment. We know our goodness, in contrast, by understanding what we've been calling evil.
So The description of this video says, can you sell your soul to the devil? Should you protect your soul from demons? Teal Swan explains what demons are and what demons want, and therefore how to protect yourself from demons and the devil. Also how loving demons may be the answer to getting rid of exorcising demons. She wants you to love demons. So, before we move on to the next segment of this story, which we're going to talk about the person that left the spirit science and started an amazing website to get out of the New Age deception. Any comments on what you just saw there?
Well, look, we both have come through our experience, even dabbling in the New Age a little bit.
Yeah.
I, for one, never really told myself or thought that I'd go into the New Age movement.
We were both deceived.
But we're both, nonetheless, still deceived.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about, just this stuff is, it's like it introduces you to basically the world of Satanism without you realizing it.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're thinking, you're meditating, and you're channeling something that you don't know what it is. It's very important to realize that this stuff is real. Good and evil is indeed real. And a lot of people are leaving the New Age movement because of the very negative, in some instances, life-threatening situations that they've been in since the New Age movement.
I mean, people who have New Age doctrine and they try to tell me about things like polarity and all these different, their doctrines, their teachings of the New Age movement. And I've looked into a lot of them, and I believed a lot of them for a long time. Unfortunately, I had horrifying experiences because of following these doctrines. So at this point, after the love of God has come into my heart, there's nothing that you can tell me. This world holds nothing for me when it comes to following any of that stuff. It's nothing compared to God to get me out of that. But that's why I have a heart for people that have been through it. Yeah. I've actually had and this is in my testimony, I've had head-on physical demonic attacks.
Yeah, we both have.
We both have, right? Yeah. So what we're talking about is it's our story. It's our personal testimony, and that's the most powerful thing that we can have when it comes to this stuff, to helping others overcome it. So speaking of which, I want to tell you guys a little bit more about Stephen Barncars. If you haven't seen him yet, you really should just watch his stuff because it is so moving, and he really helped me a lot. His story helped me a lot. He was the other founder of the Spirit Science website, and he was the one making all that money, and he had all different kinds of, he had a huge mansion and a fancy sports car, and he had lots of girlfriends and all kinds of, he was living that kind of life. That's what the New Age circle life, that's the dream, and they're doing it, under the auspices of raising consciousness, man, it's like, but Jesus appeared before him and changed him dramatically, and he fell on his face before God. And he actually started a website called Reasons for Jesus, which is so funny because it used to be his New Age website.
Yeah.
And he had the Metaphysics and Spirit Science was the website that he had, which was a runoff from Spirit Science, right? So it used to be a New Age website. It had a whole bunch of New Age subscribers, right. A Facebook channel with a whole bunch of New Age subscribers to the channel as well. Mm-hmm. And then he switched the entire thing into a website about Jesus, and it's an apologetics website where they're basically talking about all kinds of fascinating stuff. But they kept all the New Agers as subscribers. So all of a sudden, all these New Agers are getting all these stories about Jesus, and a lot of them got really angry, and they were viciously attacking him. Mm-hmm. But it's actually turned into this beautiful community, and a Facebook group. But before we move on to our next topic, I just want to play a few minutes of Stephen Barncars' story because he just got on the 700 Club.
Okay.
On one of their special films, and I just want to play a piece of this so you can see for yourself what this beautiful young man has been through.
I believe that I was God, and that we could all become Christ too, if only we realized this inherent connection we have to God.
At 19 years old, New Age blogger Steve Bankars was a spiritual guru to hundreds of thousands of followers. For Steve, it had spiritual and financial benefits.
I was getting 200,000 to 300,000 views on it a day, and the income to me was an affirmation from God. I believe God was rewarding me with helping wake people up into a higher state of consciousness. It gave me a sense of power, a sense of purpose, and a sense of meaning and value, perhaps.
Steve grew up in a Christian home, but as a teenager, developed a fascination for aliens, the paranormal, and psychic phenomenon. That led him to question his parents' Christian beliefs and eventually led to a full-blown obsession with New Age theology.
The first thing that really got me doubting the biblical worldview was ufology. All of these UFO sightings, evidence from the ancient world that we might have been visited, and there was enough evidence to make me consider that maybe the universe is filled with intelligent biological life that was perhaps naturally evolved. If you piece together the alleged evidence for reincarnation and the alleged evidence for, ancient astronaut theory, you get New Age theology.
Jesus remained part of Steve's worldview.
I didn't really reject him, but I didn't accept him for who he truly was. I created an idol out of Jesus to suit my own preferences, to suit myself, and to suit my sin. This Jesus was politically correct. He was a universalist. I wanted to be my own guide, and I didn't want to have to play by somebody else's rules.
As Steve began blogging about New Age practices and supernatural phenomena, he came to enjoy his prominence and the money and vices that came with it. But it was never enough.
I was a lust addict for 10 years or so. I was a really broken person. I didn't realize how broken that I truly was, but I was depraved. I was miserable. I had depression and anxiety that I was suppressing. I had all of this quote-unquote spiritual knowledge, all of this information, and it wasn't bearing any real fruit in my life. I felt like something was missing. I felt a little bit dead inside.
Steve had a disturbing dream.
When I opened my eyes, I was hovering 4 feet over my bed and realized that I was out of my body, and I started having a panic attack, and a being appeared in front of me, and this being had red skin with black markings on his face. It just scared me because I realized that I wasn't in control, that this stuff is more powerful than I was, that these forces were real, and that they didn't care for my well-being. They didn't need my permission. I was in their playground.
Shaken by the experience, he began investigating the claims of the Bible and Jesus more closely.
I would sleep with the Bible under my pillow because I knew there was something there that was authoritative, that was true, and that was secure, and that had power over anything that I was scared of.
So we'll stop his testimony there, and of course I'll leave a link to it, and I really encourage everybody to watch the entire testimony. But this is his amazing website that he has all of these other writers on that are really great writers. They put out some incredible articles about apologetics, which is basically defending their faith. So they go into like the historical proof,
right.
Good healthy debates about, just proving out the truth about what they believe. And it's a great site. Also, there is a wonderful Facebook group that I just recently joined. That's part of the Reasons for Jesus website as well. It's got a lot of members in it, and I've been having some fantastic discussions with people in here because I'm learning that there's a whole bunch of people that have come out of the New Age movement because they had the same experiences that I had, that Stephen had, and a lot of them are meeting up in this particular Facebook group as well. So I just wanted to bring that message out, and I hope, I'm praying for Teal, Teal Swan, and for Jordan,
Absolutely.
and for all of that, because there is no amount of money that you could pay me to go back into that world, because it was so miserable. So I hope that they can see the light and come out of that deception, because those demons are not your friends, and it's not going to end well.
No, the spiritual, there is a spiritual battle taking place. It can be very dangerous and dire in the New Age.
And I want to add one more aspect to this, and that's about the view count, okay? The view counts, the propaganda that goes on. So we talked earlier about censorship on YouTube and how YouTube is skewing views. And I've watched personally with my own eyes how a New Age doctrine would go out on a YouTube video, or they would get a blog article posted, and instantly it would go viral. Yeah. Instantly.
Like no barriers.
And I have to make a confession, okay? Because I used to believe in this stuff, and I was part of that world, and I had a blog back then. I still have it now, but I've changed it. I've cleaned it up. But I had a blog, the Hope Girl blog, and I was writing some of these New Age doctrines, and I didn't even realize. I was talking about this stuff, and I was spewing the works of other people, and my blog articles went viral.
Right.
And let me tell you something, folks. I had nothing to do with that. Okay, so these people, they put out a video, and it's like, ooh, I have 30,000 views. You didn't do that. There's an agenda behind it. And I just want to actually read a comment that I left. This is the way I feel about these folks that are working with these New Age sites. Quite honestly, I think all of these self-professed gurus are themselves being used by a bigger agenda. The worst part is most of them don't even know it. They think they just got their popularity all by themselves. All those viral videos don't just go viral all by themselves. It's manipulated and pushed heavily by the New World Order propaganda machine, with billions of dollars to fund all those recommended video placements on YouTube and Facebook feeds.